And Joffrey yells out at this one, "Look at that up-jumped oaf!"
Heyo, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Brotherhood Without Manners, your favorite full spoiler reading podcast of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series, reading A Clash of Kings. As always, I'm Zach. Sitting here next to me is Nate in a red hoodie.
Hey, I am wearing a red hoodie.
Oh,
Look at that.
I'm not colorblind.
Wow.
If you joined us before, you know we like to read Game of Thrones and talk about it because it's a really interesting series. If you haven't joined us before, we're full spoiler. We'll ruin everything. We are terrible about it.
I'm going to get you every time on it, but it's A Song of Ice and Fire. We finished Game of Thrones. That was book one. We are on Clash of Kings of the A Song of Ice and Fire series.
Didn't I say that?
No, you said Game of Thrones.
When?
Just a second ago.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
like, it wasn't in the intro. The intro was fine, so...
No, yeah.
Well, like, I don't give a fuck about it. Like, as long as the intro's fine, whatever.
Anyway, last episode we were reading Arya 1 of Clash of Kings. This episode, we're going to Sister Stark, Sansa.
Sister Stark. Arya was making her way
Sister
out
Stark,
of...
Stop.
Don't
Hey,
even.
you started it.
Arya was making her way out of the city, out of King's Landing, along the King's Road with Yoren. And Sansa, last we left Sansa had...
She was writing a letter with Cersei? Was that the last?
Yeah, she was told to be writing a letter to Robb and Catelyn, begging them to bend the knee and fall into Joffrey's rule, essentially, proclaim Joffrey king, and let everything go back to normal so that she could marry Joffrey and everything would be sweet.
However, 2 Arya chapters ago, which means it was the last chapter of Arya in Game of Thrones, we know that Sansa was up on the platform when Ned was executed.
And we also know from Christ on a Cross, who was it? That Sansa went and told Cersei. She was the one who told Cersei Ned planned on getting them out of the city and all that fun stuff.
Right.
And she didn't do it maliciously. She did it for her love for Joffrey because she didn't want to be separated from him. But yeah, it was Sansa who went to the queen and gushed about what Ned was planning to do. So Sansa 1 in A Clash of Kings opens with the morning of King Joffrey's name day dawned bright and windy, and the long tail of the great comet was visible through the high clouds. So,
The recurring theme, you know, Dany's last chapter of Game of Thrones ended with the comet. The prologue opens with the comet. Arya ended with the comet. And now her sister's opening chapter on the comet.
And it's Joffrey's birthday.
Hooray, he's turning 13?
Yeah.
Is that... Wow.
So Sansa was standing out on her balcony, well, not out on her balcony, looking through her window, similar to Crescent in the prologue, watching the comet when Ser Aerys Oakheart arrived to escort her down to the tournament grounds.
Yeah.
And she asks Ser Aerys what he thinks the comet means, and he says, "Glory to your betrothed," and
See how it flames across the sky today on his grace's name day, as if the gods themselves had raised a banner in his honor. The small folk have named it King Joffrey's Comet. And he's just so fucking proud. Like,
and Sansa so snarky Sansa Stark thinks, no doubt, that's what they told him, the small folk called it. Like, she knows how Joffrey is now. You just need to stroke his fucking ego in order for him to be happy. And she had heard it called the Dragon's Tail, which seems more common to me, what it would be more common among the small folk. And Joffrey sits where... Aerys goes on to say, Joffrey sits where Aegon the Dragon once sat, in a castle built by his son. He is the dragon's heir, and crimson is House Lannister's color, another sign. The comet heralds Joffrey's ascent to the throne and his triumph over his enemies.
I have no doubt.
I mean, God, this guy is sipping the Kool-Aid.
Man. No
Holy shit. And Sansa thinks, would the gods be so cruel? Her mother and brother were Joffrey's enemies now, and her father had died at his hand. The comet was red, yet Joffrey was a Baratheon as much as a Lannister. a black stag on a golden field is...
So the gods should have sent a yellow comet, shouldn't they? Yeah, I pointed out how smart she was to know, because she also noticed that back early on in her Game of Thrones chapters, that
how little Baratheon heritage
he
tends to...
not just a Lannister.
And she turns sharply away from the window, and she tells... Ser Aerys tells her that she looks lovely, and she thanks him. And we get a little bit of, again, her cleverness now, knowing that Joffrey would require her to attend his honor at the tournament.
She dressed herself as prettily as she could.
But I wanted to point out that she dressed in a purple silk gown with a moonstone hairnet, a gift from Joffrey.
That's the hairnet.
So, it's not...
It's
the
a
hairnet,
similar style.
It's that we're getting attention to her wearing these hairnets and the purple,
the color of the dress,
the purple, and
the
there's
strangler.
The strangler, the color
of
that
the
they
face
turn,
of Joffrey,
which we just got in the prologue,
but the
and then
dyeing of the dress. Is this the purple gown that Arya stained when she threw fruit?
Oh, I don't know about that. I was also, as far as Arya, later on Arya, when she's diddy-bopping around the Riverlands with the Brotherhood Without Banners, she will come across a woman, the Ghost of Highheart, who will kind of give her some prophetic stuff, talking about a woman with purple snakes in her hair, leaking venom. And so the color purple is associated with the Strangler. A lot of people think that prophecy is talking about Joffrey dying, and so I think that's another thing here of this purple and the hairnet. We're just getting attention drawn to it
both of them
already. And so, Ser Aerys,
she wore the dress with the long sleeves to cover the bruises left when Ser Boros beat her over Robb being proclaimed king in the north.
Yeah, his rage was fearsome to behold.
Yeah, because Joffrey commanded him to beat her.
Yeah.
He kicked the
Ser Aerys offers his arm and led her from the chamber, and she thinks that of all the Kingsguard, she preferred him the most, because he had even protested when he was commanded to hit her.
Yeah, Boros was short-tempered, Ser Meryn cold, and Ser Mandon's strange dead-eye made her uneasy, while Ser Preston treated her like a lackwit child.
Yeah. So Ser Aerys would protest. He did hit her, but not as hard as Ser Boros would have or Meryn would have.
And not without that argument.
And at least he protested. The others obeyed without question, except for the Hound. But Joffrey never asked the Hound to beat her. And so I just want to point out that Ser Mandon's dead eye gives her a weird thing. In the very next chapter, Tyrion has an interaction with Ser Mandon Moore, and he points out that Jaime has said to him that Ser Mandon Moore is the most dangerous man of the Kingsguard, besides himself, of course, because you never know what he's going to do because of that dead-eye expression. So the fact that Sansa is picking up on the fact that he frightens her because of that expression,
she's subtly aware of the fact that he's a very dangerous man.
That's exactly what Jaime Lannister is saying makes him such a dangerous man. So that immediately just jumped out at me, because I'm currently taking those notes for Tyrion, and that's sticking in my head. So the mention of Ser Mandon.
Huh.
And
so then she starts going on to compliment Ser Aerys Oakheart that he's not unpleasant to look at, especially today, donned in all his armor for the tournament. And she asks who he thinks will win.
Who do you think will win, Ser Aerys?
And he says,
he will. I will. Yeah. I shall, though it is a poor field, this lot. Squires and free riders, no honor winning amongst this lot. So it's and that's actually significant. This is a shit show of a tournament.
Terrible.
And Sansa remembers King Robert's tournament, the beautiful feast for Ned, and
so that's what I wanted to just point that out for Ned. Like, yeah, Robert did it, but it was in Ned's name, and that's how the small folks saw it.
It was the Hands tournament,
And it goes on to say
everything is different now.
That there were High Lords and fabled champions from across the realm.
Yeah.
Like, Ned drew in, like, they're like, oh, Ned Stark is being named Hand of Robert Baratheon, king. Joffrey's turning 13. Oh.
Yeah, okay.
Well, there's some pig farmers that need to wrestle. So,
Sansa asks if the queen will be in attendance, and as she feels safer with Cersei because she was there to restrain her son.
Yeah, and he tells her no, she is holding a council meeting.
And he tells her.
Urgent business.
Yeah.
Tywin has gone to ground at Harrenhal instead of returning to King's Landing with his army as Cersei had commanded. Her grace is furious. Because we know from Tyrion's last chapter, in Game of Thrones, I believe, that Cersei had written a letter demanding that Tywin comes and protects them from Renly being named king. And Tywin was not okay with
Fuck out of here.
At all.
Shit. So, yeah, he sent Tyrion in his stead. But we also learn here from Sansa that Sir Aerys Oakheart just loves to gossip.
Well, because he falls silent as a group of Lannister guards go by. And
fearing he was overheard.
He loves to gossip, but only when he was certain nobody was listening. And that just goes to play into his character.
And that's also playing into Sansa's, where she's just this dumb girl.
Yeah.
Like, he can tell her because no one's listening of import. Like,
right.
And that's sort of Sansa's ability here of just playing this dumb girl, but
she's learning
we're seeing how clever
much.
she is. She's smart. She knows who these people are. She's just listening and doing what's expected of her now. And so, and that's interesting. Yeah, as you said, for Aerys later on with Arianne and Dorne and all the fun shenanigans.
Yeah, so they come outside to a gallery and lists that had been erected in the Outer Bailey. But it was ghetto as fuck.
Yeah, barely any spectators, fewer lords. There was Lord Giles Rosby, Lady Tonda and her daughters, Dol Lollis and acid-tongued Felice,
Zalabar
Jo and Lady Ermesande. And the king sat under a crimson canopy.
Now, real quick, I just want to point out that Lady Ermesande is just it's a baby.
Yeah.
Ermesande is just this baby sitting on this wet nurse's lap, just fucking
what up?
Just like teeny little thing.
Lady Ermesande,
Joffrey
queen,
was under his shaded crimson canopy with his brother and sister.
One
Marcella
leg thrown negligently over the wooden arm of the chair, using as his throne.
Dude, like Tywin would be pissed.
In the back of the royal box, Sandor Clegane stood at guard. Lady Sansa, he announced curtly as she arrived. Lady Sansa.
And she is then greeted shyly by Marcella and the opposite by Tommen, who immediately tells her that he's going to be riding today. He gets to fight. He got permission.
He reminds her of Bran.
Yeah, and she tells him she fears for the life of his foeman. And Joffrey, the fucking cunt older brother, has to stand up and saying, well, his foe will be full of straw. He can't fight a real person. Like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, God, Tommen is a badass.
And he's in gilded Joffrey is in gilded breastplate.
Yeah.
Like, he has no plans to ride today, but he's fucking all armored up.
He has been all armored up since Renly was, like, named king or something, it said.
Yeah.
That he's been, as if he's been expecting the war to engulf them at any moment.
Yeah, he was 13 today, so Sansa greets him, Your Grace, and Aerys says he's going to take his leave so he can prepare for his turn in the tournament. And Joffrey looks her up and down and he's pleased that she wore the hairnet. And she thinks, so the king decided to play gallant today. And she's actually relieved at that. So that, again, just shows, like, oh, okay, he's pretending to be, oh, I'm pleased you wore the gift I gave you, my lady. Like, all right, yeah, he's pretending this shit.
And so all of a sudden he comes out with it, and I was like, oh, shit, when I saw it. Did you hear the Beggar King is dead?
Yeah.
Whoa.
So for a moment, Sansa thinks Robb, and she's afraid, but he explains, Viserys. Mother says the Dothraki crowned him with molten gold. It's almost as good as if some wolf killed your traitor brother. And he then reveals the best part of anything Joffrey's ever said in his fucking life.
He intends to challenge Robb Stark to singles combat. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like Robb Stark is no Arthur Dayne. Or fucking anything crazy like that. Not even a Jaime Lannister. Like, Jaime would take Robb Stark in my mind. No problems. But Joffrey?
No.
Like,
Joffrey
you
got
haven't
bested
even seen...
by an untrained Arya.
Yeah, like, and Robb's actually been out there on the battle. Like, he's been fighting.
Yeah.
He's killed people.
Yeah.
Like, he's not necessarily, I mean, he's still a green boy.
He handled his shit with the wildlings. We saw him up close there. Now he is literally leading a host in combat. Joffrey has never seen fucking battle at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so Joffrey would shit his pants with Robb coming at him.
And Sansa, like you said, snarky fucking, she would very much like to see that. And
things more than you know, but she quickly changes subjects.
Yeah, before he can decide if she's mocking him, she asks if he will enter the tourney today. And he tells her no, because his mother says it is in his name, and so I shouldn't fight in it.
Sure. Ser Meryn is heralded out and arrives as Joffrey begins holding Sansa's hand. He grabs her hand and fills her with revulsion.
He did that back in like the episode when they were at the inn or some shit. And it was and she even says there was a time where him doing this would have been the highlight and the most magical moment.
Her heart
of the
soared,
day. But there was nothing but disgust and revolt. Just
And Ser Hobber of House Redwine is announced, and Sansa thinks that the Redwine twins were also unwilling guests of the queen,
Ser
as was Sansa.
Hobber and Horace, the twins, and she wonders whose notion it was to make them fight. Because it certainly wasn't their own.
So Meryn and Hobber joust. They go a couple rounds, and Meryn ends up taking it in the end. And after Ser Hobber is knocked down, Joffrey stands up and declares, "Poorly ridden." And Sir Balon Swan and Moros of House Slint, heir to Lord Janos of Harrenhal, are announced next.
And Joffrey yells out at this one, "Look at that up-jumped oaf!"
Loud enough for it to be heard.
Yeah, and him being a lowborn, he has no idea what he's doing out there.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know how to handle the fucking lance, and it's looking to be a mess.
Sansa thinks, "I hope he falls. I hope Ser Balon kills him."
Yeah, we learned that it was her. She more than ever before despises this family because Janos Slint was the one that picked up her father's head by the hair after it had been fucking chopped off.
And held it up. Yeah.
Like,
presented it while Sansa wept and screamed.
Yeah, so...
And Swan easily dropped Moros, whose leg ends up catching in his stirrup, and the horse drags him to the end of the list. Bloody, but alive. And,
Joffrey tells Tommen they chose the wrong opponent for him, as a straw knight jousts better than Moros Slint.
Yeah, it's just shit. Compared to Ned Stark's glorious tournament, and more jousts follow, and Joffrey is not amused by any of them. Slowly, his lip begins to curl.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Small Council. We're just going to meet for a few minutes here and discuss our socials, where you can write into us and how you can get a hold of us if you want to send us your inductees or ask questions, anything like that. Yeah,
so we'll get back to Sansa's analyzing of King's Landing nonsense in a minute, but for right now, you can reach us on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Carstark92. Nate is on Twitter at Manners Without.
Yeah, same as the Instagram at Manners Without. We're on Facebook. Facebook.com/Brotherhood Podcast. We have our email, Without Manners, Brotherhood@gmail.com. And for those people that are so pleasantly inspired to come and join us and throw a little money our way, we have our Patreon.
And Patreon, we just uploaded Barry 1, so you can now enjoy that for your listening pleasure.
As well as the episodes we had on there before. It's all sample chapter rereads right now.
And we plan on keeping pumping out that content and adding more as things continue forward.
And so that's patreon.com/Without Manners. There's multiple tiers. It's awesome if you do that. We love you so much. If so, head over there, check it out.
We'll let you back to the episode.
The next fight was Horace Redwine, the other twin, and he beat an elderly knight, bedecked with silver griffins around a striped blue and white field. So that's a Redwine versus a griffin.
Yeah.
Do you think that has anything to do with a future encounter, a battle between the Redwines and Jon Connington? Do you think that the Tyrells or the Redwines might best him in combat, best him at a battle here at the end of the series? Because they don't really give the name of this older knight. It's just kind of the symbol here.
Yeah, no.
So I'm keeping an eye on that because I think you're wrong.
Okay. Sure.
But Joffrey complains that, like you said, that this is a feeble show, and the Hound's like, Told you. So that's what I said was going to happen.
As the king grew more bored, Sansa was growing more anxious because this is when he tended to lash out at different people.
And the trouble begins with the next joust of Lothar Brune versus Ser Dontos of House Hollard.
Lothar appears at his end of the list, yet Ser Dontos does not. And eventually a horse comes running out, and naked but for breastplate and helm, chasing his horse, too drunk to mount it, was Ser Dontos. And the crowd is roaring with laughter, all except for Joffrey. And Joffrey had a familiar look in his eyes, the same look as when he pronounced dead on her father.
Yeah.
So Sansa immediately knows he's switching into fuckery mode.
And so Dontos tries to get up on his horse, and he's naked, and he fails, so he just plops down in the dirt and says, "I lose. Fetch me some wine."
So Joffrey stands, demanding a cask. "I'll see him drown in it." And Sansa immediately, just instinctively gasps.
"No, you can't!"
Yeah.
Which is the only thing you can't say to Well, not the only thing. There's a lot of things you can't
and
say.
she bullshits her way out of it by saying, it's ill luck to kill a man on your name day.
Now, he doesn't buy it until finally, out of the blue, the Hound is like, "No, it's true.
Yeah.
Shouldn't do it. Reap what you sow on your name day."
Yeah, and he says it in such an uncaring tone, like that he's just stating a fact.
That he just doesn't give a fuck what Joffrey thinks about what he's saying.
And so, yeah, Joffrey says, "All right, have him taken away. I'll kill him on the morrow, the fool." And Sansa kind of jumps on that and says, "The fool, you're right. You're so clever to see it. He is a fool. So dress him in motley and make him dance for you. He doesn't deserve the mercy of a quick death." And Joffrey studies her for a second and says, "Perhaps you're not as stupid as mother says. Do you hear, my lady, Ser Dontos? From this day forward, you will be my fool." And Dontos immediately grovels, thanking them both. And so
Joffrey cancels the rest of the tournament.
Well, you had mentioned... Jesus, my nose is running...
Gross.
Yeah, it's gross.
You're gross.
You had mentioned the other day that the Motley got mentioned again. Yeah. And the clever man, clever bird, clever fool.
And then shortly, from the prologue, in Creston's thing, there was all sorts of weird Motley and fool stuff. And so now we get Dontos being named. And it's so soon after that. Like, I'm just wondering if, we were sitting there looking at the prologue as if it meant exactly that moment. But what if it's just a prophecy and the clever fool turns out to be Dontos because of how much he helps and how Florian-esque he
exactly.
becomes.
Because this here is what gets him the access he needs to implement the plan to poison Joffrey.
Right.
And so it is that. Is this something that's already being orchestrated, or does Littlefinger see this stupid circumstance happen?
Yeah, I don't think this is
and then jump in. No, I agree.
Yeah,
I don't think so either. I think Littlefinger sees this and takes advantage of it, but it's just that interesting. Is this the clever fool? Is that this type of scenario? Because Dontos is a drunken fool, but he does begin to help Sansa.
But when he's not drunk, he does have a semblance of sanity.
He takes on that persona of Sir Florian for Sansa anyway. And so, Joffrey is done as Dontos is led away by Lannister
But
guards.
Tommen is not having it.
And he declares the tournament done and that he would have them all killed if it wasn't his name day. He's so bored with it. But Tommen, wants his turn to tilt. And Joffrey just keeps mocking. Like, he's such a fuck.
Yeah.
And he mocks him as childish, and Myrcella's like, "We are children.
Yeah.
Like, what do you expect us to do, bro?" And immediately shuts him right the fuck up. And it's great. So he relents.
And the Hound laughed at that too.
Yeah,
he fucking.
And
so
Tommen gets suited up and taken off.
I like that Sansa called luck to him as he scampers off. And
she doesn't detest every Lannister. No. It's just Joffrey. And...
So they get the Straw Knight and get him all ready, and he gets up on his mount and charges forward, yelling "Castle!" I just pictured Tyrion when he was yelling it. He yells out, and he gets a decent blow on the thing that swings around and clonks him on the back of the
Cracks
head.
him. Joffrey
knocks him straight off his horse.
Joffrey laughed loudest and longest, like a douchebag.
But Myrcella gets up and runs to the little guy, and Sansa tells Joffrey he should go too and tell Tommen that he rode well. And Joffrey's like, "He didn't ride well, he fell off his horse." And the Hound cuts him off, and I love that.
Yeah.
Because he's like, "The boy has courage." He's going to try again. And
Tommen, just starts mounting up again, and Sansa thinks that she wishes he was the elder because she wouldn't mind marrying Tommen. And that thought is interrupted by the gates opening, surprising them all as a column of men ride through with the banners declaring them Lannisters. However, the riffraff among them, the savages, look more like something from old Nan's tales that Bran used to love. And in their midst, riding tall, was the Queen's queer brother, Tyrion Lannister, the one they called the Imp, looking as grotesque as Sansa remembered him from Winterfell. And Tommen rides over, shrieking immediately, and just shouts into light. Myrcella runs over, and Tyrion lifts her and spins her.
I saw that it said that there was one of the wildlings scoops Tommen up out of the saddle and swirls him around and sets him in front of Tyrion. And I just thought that would, like... Joffrey's probably too scared to go and be anywhere near these fucking wildlings, and Tommen just rides up, gets scooped up by one. He's giggling, it says, breathlessly when he, is in front of Tommen.
Yeah, no, I noticed that too, that I'm guessing it's Chella just picks him up and sets him right down. Yeah, and Tyrion, after greeting those, Myrcella and Tommen, approaches Joffrey, and he's got two men behind him, a black-haired, black-eyed sellsword who moved like a cat, which Sansa, again, immediately picks up on similar descriptions, and a gaunt-faced youth with an empty socket for one eye. Do we know who this is?
Yeah, it's one of the... I'm pretty sure that's just one of the clans.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, Tyrion takes a knee, Your Grace, and the Hound says, "They said you were dead." And Tyrion immediately quips back, "I was speaking to the king, not his cur." And he turns to Sansa next and apologizes to her for her losses. And Sansa isn't sure if he's mocking her or not. And he turns to Joffrey and says, "I'm sorry for your loss as well." And Joffrey's like, "My loss?"
Yeah, dude. Like, he's already
Tyrion's
forgotten
like,
that.
"Yeah, your father, you might recall him if you take a minute."
The king,
And Sansa immediately kind of remembers her Septa's lessons, thinking that a lady's armor is courtesy.
And she apologizes to Tyrion for her mother taking him captive. And he accepts her apology and tells her before he is done, many more will be even sorrier.
"A great many people are sorry for that, my lady, and before I'm done, some may be sorrier yet, but I thank you nonetheless."
Yeah.
And he asks Joffrey, "Where is your lady mother?" And he says, "With counsel, your brother keeps losing battles, and now the Stark boy calls himself king," and he glares at Sansa like it's her fault. And the dwarf smiles crookedly. "All sorts of people are calling themselves kings these days."
And then Joffrey asks if Tyrion, "Did you bring me a gift for my name day?"
"Yes, my wits."
Fuck you, Joffrey. Fuck you.
Yeah, I'd sooner have Robb Stark's head. And, yeah, he turns and gathers Myrcella and Tommen, and they turn and leave in the Hound. And Sansa is left with the dwarf and his monsters, which I just think is so fucking interesting that she's classifying Tyrion and these wildlings as the monsters, but the monsters just fucking left.
They're the ones that walked away. And she asks about Tyrion's arm, and he tells her how he got hurt at the battle.
Yep.
And asks, "Are you sad because of your father's death?"
Yeah.
And she gives the I'm loyal.
"My father was a traitor. My mother and brother are traitors as well. I am loyal to my beloved Joffrey."
And he's as loyal as a deer surrounded by wolves.
"Lions," she whispers without thinking.
She accidentally corrects him, I said.
Yeah.
And and this is... especially knowing what they're going to go through together, like, right from the get-go, right from the start, he promises to never savage her in any way.
"I am only a little," he takes her hand, "I am only a little lion, and I vow I shall not savage you." And with that, he takes his leave from her, and she thinks to herself as he's waddling away in that odd gait of his that he speaks more gently than Joffrey, but the Queen had spoken gently as well. And he is still a Lannister, Queen's brother, Joffrey's uncle, and no friend to her.
Yeah.
And she thinks, just kind of sadly, that once she had loved Prince Joffrey and admired and trusted his mother, and they repaid that love and trust with her father's head, and Sansa would never make that mistake again. Yeah, that's like such a good dark.
And it's also going to lead to those tensions in the future with these two, even though he doesn't mean her any
Even
harm.
though Tyrion is the one she
still
can,
won't give him
and
that
that's
trust.
it with the monsters, the dwarf and his monsters. Like she's viewing him now in the scope of all the Lannisters, where like she's even giving Tommen and Myrcella more benefit of the doubt than Tyrion, in thinking that they're children and haven't been corrupted. I'd say fucking even almost Cersei more leeway at this point, because she still wants Cersei there just to restrain Joffrey.
Well, because Tyrion was a monster before.
Well, that's it. Just based when she
met.
was so vanity based, it was still he was a monster because of the way he looked. Now he's monstrous because of the way he looks, the people he's with, and his association with the Lannisters.
So do you have an inductee for this chapter?
God, this one's pretty fucking hard to give an inductee for, but I gotta give it to the Hound for one, backing Sansa in such a chill, under the cuff way with the kill a man on your name day. That's what you sow what you reap on your name day, you sow all year. And then I also really liked the line where the boy has courage, he's gonna try again, when Tommen starts to mount up. Like the Hound is a good guy. Like he isn't terrible. And even though I love Tyrion to pieces, like even when he greets Tyrion with the "we heard you were dead," like I don't see that as him being like, "I wish you were dead."
No, I heard
like,
you were dead.
We heard you died in that battle. Like, how'd you manage that one, dwarf? But Tyrion's Tyrion, so the Hound for me.
Sweet.
You?
I'm giving mine to Tommen. Because he rode that horse like a fucking boss, and he landed a hit on his first try, even if it knocked him off afterwards. And he got the fuck back up to go again. He didn't put up with his brother's shit. He kept arguing. No, I was told I can ride. I don't care that you're the fucking king. I was told that I can ride. I'm going to ride. And he fucking did. And so I'm going to have some cookies and pet some kittens with Tommen.
Word. Tommen. I dig it.
Fuck yeah. So we also did get an inductee from our favorite French listener. Again, it's only because he's the only one that's written into us so far, But Julian writes in with a Sansa inductee. He just wants to insist on that ridiculous line. Did I tell you I intend to challenge him to single combat? What is that word? Combat. Sorry, Julian, I fucked up your email. Shut the fuck up, Joff.
Yeah.
His inductee for this, Sansa, for the irony she keeps distilling to Joffrey despite the risk of it. She begins to strengthen her shell against her future enemies and starting just yet to become one of his favorite characters in the show. Badass Sansa.
Yeah, Sansa, her growth is pretty sweet, especially in A Clash of Kings, watching her just know these people now and learning how they work.
Right. Well, especially with, I think it's the perfect time for her to start learning with Tyrion, his arrival, and seeing how that's done and how it can be played.
Seeing one of the best players.
So, thank you for writing in, Julian. We always appreciate it.
Join us next time. We're going to be reading Tyrion 1, his first chapter.
Yeah, which picks up basically immediately after this.
Yeah, Tyrion's going to be meeting with the Queen, and we will send us your inductees for that, and then we're going to keep plowing our way through Clash of Kings.
Yeah, so we'll see you on the next one.
Battle of the Aerys.
Peace.